So I'm going to refurbish the gauge cluster in my car. The rings are looking pretty ratty and rusty. First, I'm going to take the cluster out of the car. So you can see everything is labeled there. And don't forget also, before you pull the cluster out, put a towel on top of the steering column so you don't scratch the the collar here. The gauges themselves are held in with a rubber ring right here. So all you do first is pull the rubber ring off. All right. So there's the rubber ring. 914 Rubber sells replacement ones of these, by the way, which I'm going to get for a nice snug fit. And then you have the gauge. So this is a combo gauge. And what you need to do is you need to get this ring off right here. And there's a crimp all the way around it. It's nice to see that this hasn't been opened before. So you see that little edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to wedge a screwdriver in there and pull it up. So once this gets started a little bit, we can pry it up. You can see that, yeah, it looks a little like it's torn up, but once you put everything back together, you can easily push this back down, and the rubber ring hides all the evils. So you just keep working around, just gently. If you like, you can use a bigger screwdriver once it's all set. Once you get it going and you get the hang of it, it happens pretty quick. You don't have to go all the way around. You can just go about 3/4 of the way, and then it'll slip out. It isn't an elegant process, but it works. You can see that it's off for a good part of it. See? And then the remainder of it just comes right off. And now we can do some work. This glass has been fogged forever, so it'll be nice to clean that out. So when you refinish, it's these 3 rings, and replace the glass if you need to, or definitely clean it. And what I'm going to do is put a strip of LED lights inside the can, which will give us amazing illumination. I did this on my 73 car, and it was great. I should credit Tim from 914 World with the instructions or the inspiration for this mod. And you can find step-by-step written directions from him on the 914 World site. But I'm going to show you video-wise how to do it, because there are a couple little tricky things. First thing we're going to do, after we have the bezels off, is gently remove the gauges. And they're all held on with just slot head screws. The key here is to find a screwdriver that perfectly fits that slot. A little screwdriver like this, like a tweaker, will fit, but it won't give you enough leverage to crack open the screws. What you really need to do is find a screwdriver with a really thin tip, like this one, or you can file one down. You need a little bit of leverage to crack these open. So let's see if I can do this one-handed. Yep, there's one. I'm just going to get through all of these, and then I'll show you what the inside of the gauge looks like and what we're going to do. All right, I've gotten the 4 screws off, and now I will gently remove the temperature gauge. And it should just lift straight up. You just have to be a little bit careful and rock it a little bit as you get it to come out of the hole. Now's a really good time to touch up the needles if they need it. These look like they're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to put this off to the side in a place where hopefully it won't get damaged, and then I want to work on getting this one out. Just gently pull this out. Next step is going to be to pull out the little lenses here, extension of the lenses, so that I can actually work the can. Now I'm going to keep these in order. This one I know is the brake. This is just the tube to channel the alternator light. Again, it just pulls out, and this is the oil light. Okay, that one, the metal part stayed in, no big deal. I lay everything out like this. So now I have a clean can. Clean can. Oh, that's a first. Anyway, What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a ring of LED lights around here, and that will illuminate the gauge. Now you can shoot some new white paint in here and really brighten them up, but these LED lights are so bright, and this particular gauge doesn't need a lot of bleed through light, so I'm just going to leave it alone. The thing about these LEDs is that you can cut them to size, but you can't just cut them anywhere. They come from the factory with wires attached to the end of it, but obviously we're going to need to cut this and solder new wires to 2 other lengths so that we can get those to work. And we also don't want to have a tremendous amount of LED in the can, otherwise you'll blind yourself. So there's 2 places that you can cut these. One is at any of these copper strips. You can actually see there's a little line there which shows you exactly where you can make your cut. And then there's another spot, which is here, where you see that there's already some solder there. That's where you would attach wires for the next length, like for the other can that I'm going to do. You know, I'll cut it here, I'll attach new wires, and then I'll trim this piece down at one of these marks so it fits perfectly in the can. And the way I'm going to determine how it fits in the can is by just laying it in and coiling it around. Alright, so now I have a pretty decent idea of how much I need. You see that there's an adhesive strip on the back of this. That's how it's going to stick to the can. But I need to cut it, you know, around here or so. So there's a spot. That's perfect. So I'm just going to mark that spot. I know that this is where it's going to be. And I'll cut it with a scissor. I made my cut. You can see it's right on that line. And these are the factory lines. And I will just connect it to show you that yes, it still does light. Now I will prep the can to put it in. Well, alcohol here to clean the inside of the can to make sure that the LEDs stick really nice. I noticed when I test fit this that the wire was kind of up against this piece of metal here, and I don't want anything rubbing and shorting out. So I have a piece of shrink tube that I'm going to just kind of slide in here for protection and get that going. Alright, so I've threaded the wire through the hole and then peeled the adhesive off just a little bit at a time as I was pressing down, and it went all around the can. So now we have light strips all the way around. One important thing to remember is that these LEDs need to face forward. These are special angle LEDs that project forward, so you have to make sure you install them that way. If you flip it around, it's just going to go to the back, and you still get good light, but this is the way it really should be. Now, the knot that I made is really close to the end, which will give the clear silicone something to grab onto and make sure that you can't really pull these out once the installation is complete. And that's kind of everything that's involved in getting the can set. Now what I'll do is I'll rebuild the can, put it all back together again, and then check the lights and make sure everything's working. Easy peasy. Actually, before I put the whole thing together, I'm just going to put the spade connectors on. This is how it's going to get all connected together in the harness. So just find a small spade connector and lay it in there, and you'll need your crimp tool to go ahead and crimp it down. There you go. And as they say, installation is the reverse. So here we have our gas gauge. And we're just going to gently get that into the hole. And there we have it. Now I'll just get all the screws in, and we'll put that front bezel on. Alright, we'll put the brake light lens in and push that down. Make sure that's all set. Then we'll get the alternator tunnel for the light. And finally, the lens for the light that no one ever wants to see while you're driving, the oil lamp. Okay, now that they're all in there, we're going to take our bezel and drop that down. Just being real careful with how it lands. And as you get the bezel close to hitting home, you see it's just about 1/8 of an inch left. You want to make sure that these lenses all fit within the holes. Just got to kind of coax them in, you know, and then once they're all set, you push the thing down. And the only thing left is a dab of silicone to hold the nut in place. Ready to begin final assembly of the new LED equipped gauge here. So I have the gauge unit and I have all the rings, which I've powder coated because powder coat's a lot more flexible than paint. So when you start to bend the ring apart, bend the ring down to secure it, it doesn't flake, and you don't have to worry about it chipping so much when you put it back in the car. So then the other thing is to make sure that this glass is super clean. And the way I do that is with isopropyl alcohol. And then what happens is the glass kind of fits into this ring here. Now, put this on, and it looks beautiful. Just double check everything. It looks good. Now there's 2 rings here. One that fits within. This is the outside ring, and this is the inner ring, which goes in like this. And then the whole thing fits on. And this is where you kind of have to work it back in. You can see the edge there that I have to get it back in, up and over. So it's just a matter of like snapping it in. And now all that's left is to take a screwdriver and just crimp, push down all the way around as you go around the entire thing. And from the front, you'll never be able to tell the uncrimped it. You can hardly even tell now. Then this goes into the rubber ring, right into the slot. And now all you have to do is repeat the process for the other 2 gauges. Pretty much exactly the same thing. All right, now that everything's done and together, the only thing that's left is to wire it all up. And for that, I'm going to follow Tim from 914 World's suggestion and connect all of the grounds together with a loop and some spade connectors. And there's also a little splitter coming off of the one to the far left, which is going to plug into the brown wire, the ground, and the harness in the car. Now for the positives, you can link them all together in the same way, but because there are so many hot females in the car, what I'm going to do is just put male spades, I got to convert this one, on each one of the wires, and then just tie those directly into the car. And here's the finished product. All gauges lit up nice. This is a really simple upgrade to do. You can do it in a weekend easy. Have fun.